Hey guys, it's Nate, aka TheFutAccountant. Welcome back to the channel. I just returned from EA Sports Vancouver, where they invited me and many other creators to the FC26 Inside Look event. You maybe have seen clips of my interview with former Foot creator and current EA employee Jamie Foot Economist about stuff coming in Ultimate Team in FC26, but this is where we got to hear more about the community-based changes coming to FC26 gameplay. It was there where I was one of the first to get my hands on the actual gameplay of FC26 in two different build variations and actually feel what EA meant when they said things like one frame passing, dynamic dribbling, and reduced tacklebacks and delay. So it's all good and fun to read EA's long pitch notes documents of how they're changing the game, but how does it feel? That's what I want to share with you today on this video. If you're excited for it and excited for FC26, make sure to drop a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Let's break this video up into 5 different sections, starting with what EA focused on the most, or so it seems: responsiveness, delay, and animations. We played FC26 offline, so there's still a big question mark for me as to how responsive FC26 is going to be and if it's really as much of an improvement as EA make it out to be from FC25 and years before. Because offline, you don't get the same connection issues, you don't get the same input delay over a server connecting to your internet, all the different variables that are found there. It's not the same offline as it is online. So I can say that offline felt very good and there wasn't very much delay or any delay at all, because I really can't say that I experienced any delay offline. But the true test here is going to come when we get to the online parts of FC26. Now, a lot of the things that EA have mentioned for FC26 aren't just related to delay. It's about animation variability, increased coverage, and addressing system bugs. This is the one that I think matters the most to us though. Time between button press and when our simulation processes the input. I can honestly say, after playing 20 to 30 games of offline FC26 kickoff mode, I don't think I experienced one time any input delay offline. They said here they were able to improve the input latency, they improved input systems, and responsiveness of on-screen visual feedback. So it all sounds good in theory, but right now we really just have to take this with a pinch of salt and really experience it in game. Now, this fatigue redesigned change that they're making, I think, is going to make the responsiveness of this game feel a whole lot different. And this is something that I've noticed playing offline, because this is related to stamina. This is really big here in my opinion, because it's really about the consistency. Every time you are controlling a player in FC26, they are going to be on full stamina, even if they're actually depleted heavily and they're like 50% stamina in the 92nd minute of the game. When you switch to them, as it says here, user controlled players are not affected by fatigue and stamina while being controlled. Now, when you switch off of a player onto another player, the AI players will feel the effects of the sprint speed and acceleration reductions, because they will be fatigued proportionate to their fatigue level. So this may sound weird and it maybe sounds like, ooh, that's not good, but it actually is good, because every time you switch to a player, let's say you switch to your center defensive mid in the 2nd minute and try to make a chasing tackle, he's going to feel the same in the 2nd minute as he does in the 92nd minute. And that is nice for consistency. You may say, Nate, that's not realistic. That's why EA have split the gameplay modes up this year from competitive to authentic. This is a competitive only gameplay tuning, but that is something that I think I noticed already from defending, especially with full stamina players that I was controlling, because they feel the same every time you switch to them. They're fast, they're agile, and they're consistent all game long. And to me, that is a W. So we still need to see how the consistency, how the connections and input delay and stuff will react to online FC26 kind of a competitiveness. But at least right now for the offline, it's good, but offline should always be good. So jury's still out, but let's move on to point number 2 and keep going. The second point I want to discuss is dribbling and passing. What all the creators, including myself in Vancouver, were so hyped about is the changes in these two areas. The new dribbling feels as good as it looks. Look at this image from the game code of the player in red with the ball making such tight turns and dribbles. Compare this to FC25, where it would just feel a lot slower when you would turn. That extra touch and extra time to get moving would take place. This is 25. This is now 26. Like, look at the number of extra touches that the player is taking. This you can absolutely feel in game. It feels kind of OP. I'll be completely honest. How fast you can dribble, and it's on demand. Look how fast that player stops and turns. I think even after holding the sprint button there, dribbling feels really good. I know you're going to be like, Nate, you're glazing. No, dribbling feels very good. I can honestly say right now, as again, I just played an FC26 game, went back and played an FC25 match. The left stick dribbling on a player with, I think, 2 playstyle pluses with probably low 90 stats. I was using Mbappe, which is probably his gold card, right? Compared to a card that I was using in FC25 with 97 dribbling, it was better in 26 with the lower dribbling stat and without the crazy playstyle pluses that we all have in 25 of this end game state. So that's a really, really good sign, and that's really fun when you're making these quick turns around everywhere to get around defenders, to open up passing lanes, and to eventually score goals. It feels so responsive, it's so snappy, it's so fast. This is one of the things that I think has gotten a lot of people who have played 26 excited, is how quick and how fast it is and how actually accurate this video looks. When you look at 25 and I think, wow, that's actually what I was just experiencing when I was dribbling in game, and then you fast forward and look at 26 and you're like, yeah, that's how it feels in 26. So we don't even need to talk about it too much. Just know that that is a legit thing in 26 that feels very good. Again, we still have to keep it under consideration. This is offline, and will there be some sorts of input delay and lag online? Hopefully not, as EA has put a lot of emphasis into that. We still have to see what happens there, but dribbling is looking very exciting heading into 26. Here's another video that I want to show you in relation to this. It's the turn and the change of direction and the speed. Take a look at this. FC25, stop, couple steps, and then you go. Look at 26, right? When it shows Trinity Rodman here with the turns. She stops, boom, one step, going. It's like you barely lose any time when you change direction. It is so fast. It is so quick to move and turn and change directions. Sure, you may say, Nate, that's not that authentic. Well, again, this is the competitive game mode, and if you want to play authentic, turn on the authentic gameplay switch and play in career mode, because that's more for you. That's why EA, I think, is going to help us have a better gameplay experience this year, because they finally separated the two modes, which maybe I didn't realize needed to happen as much as it did, but the more they talk about it, the more it seems way more exciting, because the things that we want in Ultimate Team and competitive online play are now being provided, because the other stuff that people want in authentic mode is there and provided for them. So both get their W's, win-win situation. Let's talk about passing. Now, when it comes to passing, I'm sure you've seen this imagery. They showed this in the trailer. They showed this in the gameplay trailer as well. The speed of the first time passes and how quickly passes travel on the ground from FC25 to FC26 is incredibly different. And guys, I'm telling you, you feel it exactly like you see it in this video. You can do one touch first time passes, almost like I said earlier in the video, on demand. When you pass the ball and you actually request that pass when the ball is like literally on the foot of the receiving passer, the guy who's receiving the pass, the game's not going to make you take a touch. You're going to pass it instantly. I can specifically remember multiple times where I was in game and I had a pass approaching the receiver, and I all of a sudden last second, maybe within the last frame or two, decided to, instead of going to turn and dribble, make another pass, and the game delivered that pass. There was no input delay there that made the animation jar or bug, and it didn't make a touch and then pass. It instantly passed the ball with good precision and accuracy, like what they focused on here. The quick passes are where you notice it, guys. I'm telling you, pros at the event. I keep mentioning pros because I'm not a pro. I played this game a lot already for the little bit of time that I had to play, but I'm not a pro still. But the pros of the event were loving the narrow formations and the speed of the passing. A lot of people were running 4-1-2-1-2. They were passing the ball quickly up the pitch, tiki-taka in and out of players. So it feels like narrow formations and wide formations could work this year, because you have the dribbling that works as well as it does. You have the passing that works as well as it does. And I think these two things were really making a lot of the positive feelings about FC26 come to life. And when you hear a lot of creators say that they're excited about 26, I honestly think it's because you have options and you have control and consistency in the way that you attack. And that's why a lot of people are excited. I also want to talk about through passes. Not necessarily because through passes aren't overpowered or aren't good in 25, because they are. They're sometimes super annoying in 25, but it's the vision. And as they say here, the pass targets, like different passing lanes for semi-assisted through passes. Aiming at a specific passing lane ensures the best target selection for the intended receiver within that lane, respecting your aim and your intention. There's a few of the clips that they have shown here in the trailer and in the deep dive where they show some through ball passes. Look at this right here. Boom. Oh no, it's not there. Where is it? Yeah, that through ball right there. That's the video clip. Roll it back. Roll this back right here. This through ball that is played. See that? See that angle? That's like a messy type of through ball pass. If you were aiming right there before, you'd be like, okay, it's probably not going to pass the ball there, so I need to aim somewhere else. You would have not thought to aim there to play your striker through. You can this year because the game recognizes that that's a run the striker can make in behind, and you can make a great through pass. Like that passing, look, that's beautiful. That is beautiful football, and you can do that up and down the pitch in FC26. So I'll stop glazing passing, but it's very good. It made the game so much more fun to play than 25, at least in the moment, even in the end game. Guys, I'm serious. A lot of people that were playing the game were saying they were having more fun playing 26 offline in this beta mode than they were in kickoff, than they were with their 4, 5 playstyle plus 97, 98, 99 rated cards in FC 25. So that's passing and dribbling, and that's probably where most of us are excited for FC 26. Topic number 3 has to be about how do we counter the boosted passing and dribbling in FC 26 with defending, jockeying, and the removal or the reduction of bouncebacks. I love once again how EA has been very upfront, noticing that tackle bats, bouncebacks, and rebounds are one of the frustrations that we've had a lot in FC 25. They mentioned it in the trailer. They've mentioned it in the gameplay notes here. And as somebody who has played the game and felt it out, it's pretty legit, the changes between 25 and 26. There's not many of those situations where you feel like your player who deserves to make an interception is not ending up with the ball, kind of shown here in these couple clips from the gameplay trailer. This tackle right here, comparing 25 to 26. In both instances, the attacker gets the pass off, but look at the interception slash tackle here. Two guys are kind of running to meet the ball at the exact same time. In 25, what happens? They run together, glitchy animations happen once again, and then the ball's just kind of up for grabs. In 26, the defender gets it, takes it, and there's no contest really. Boom. Great tackle right there. One thing I want to really point out in terms of tackling is this tackle personality. You can actually kind of feel this in game. After playing the game and then going back and reading the pitch notes, I was kind of like, wait a second. I felt this. Players with a low stand tackle attribute below 71 can only perform basic stand tackle animations. Players with 71 to 84 tackling can perform most animations, and players with 85 plus can perform all stand tackle animations. I think that's very unique because usually animations are locked behind, or at least improved animations are locked behind playstyles and playstyle pluses. But if you have a player with 85 plus in the tackling stat, you're going to get better animations from that. That's a W in my opinion. This hopefully proves another point that there's going to be a little bit of a reduction on the overpoweredness of playstyle pluses and still a level of importance on statistics, on the stats for cards, because that was one of the things in FC 25 that we were frustrated with a lot. Now take a look at interceptions here. This is what we were frustrated with, right? In FC 25, you see the CDM take a touch off of making a good interception, getting in the way of a pass, taking the ball, but then the touch, right? What are we saying? What is that touch, right? That's inconsistent. It goes straight to the striker, and he gets a ball in line to score. Now here in FC 26, same situation, kind of behind the screen, sorry. The passer is passing the ball, and the defender intercepts it. This time, he controls the ball after 2 touches, and boom, you're off to another player, and you can start your attack going the other way. That is almost how it feels every single time. It is way more consistent. The only thing that I'll kind of end off this defending conversation with here is that with how good the attacking, passing, and dribbling has been improved, specifically dribbling, I do think that the jockeying needs to be improved a little bit. I think it's still almost a little bit not good enough, even though, like I said, with the fatigue redesign, when you're controlling the same center defensive mid or center back, you know, you're at full stamina when you're controlling that card. So it really does promotes manual defending. I still think the jockeying speed needs to be improved. I was talking to EA a little bit about this, and others were agreeing just because of how OP the attacking is with the dribbling. I think jockeying needs to be just a skosh faster. But I'll mention this too, and I put this in my notes as I was talking to EA guys over there. I love that EA are not saying, oh man, dribbling's a little too OP, let's bring it down. No, they're saying dribbling is where we want it to be. It's responsive, it's fast, it's good. Let's bring tackling up, and let's bring jockeying up a little bit to make that a little bit more even. Instead of reducing something that's already good to match something else, they want to improve something to match it, to be as good, to match what is already good. So that's just an attitude that I like, and that's just a mindset that I like, that I think is hopefully going to make the balance of FC26 better. Now, the fourth topic I want to talk about is finishing, especially related to timed finishing being removed and low-driven shots being a main focal point of FC26. Low-driven shots were how I was scoring most of my goals when playing FC26, but not just the regular low-drivens, because of course, with time finishing being removed and low-drivens not just being as simple as they were before, there's more of a skill gap to it. Guys, honestly, the way that I'll say it is shooting and scoring takes a bit of getting used to in FC26. Finesse shots are still good. They're one of my favorite ways to score in FC26 from the limited number of games that I played, because the animation of the curve and the arc of the ball looks way more realistic and lifelike. I didn't even think that it didn't look lifelike in terms of FC25, but now when you see it in 26, the curve looks a whole lot better. It curves more downwards instead of left to right, and there's a lot more just total arc on it. So the finesse shots look great, and they still are very useful. But shooting, I think, is just going to have to take a little bit of getting used to, because FC25 was a really weird year for shooting because of timed finishing, because of the low-driven shot just being a simple tap under 40% power. Now you have to get used to powering up your shot and then tapping again to do the low driven, but also with low drivens, you're going to have so much more customizability in so many ways. Look at all these different types of low drivens: low driven lace, low driven finesse, low driven trivela, low driven flare, power shot, low driven volley, low driven header. It's kind of crazy. That second tap of the shooting button, or the B button, or the circle button on PlayStation, is going to be so important. And I also think that precision shooting is going to be even more important this year. I'm going to say this, guys. If you're somebody who has not used precision shooting, what I would do right now in FC25 is turn off timed finishing. I'm about to turn off timed finishing myself and put on precision shooting as I've had it on, so that I can get used to FC26 before it comes out. That's going to be something that'll be really helpful to get your mind around how the new finishing is going to work. Now, we got to talk about trivelas as well, because guys, trivelas cooked. Like, holy man, I've been trying to score trivelas even with players that have the Game Changer Playstyle Plus. Cooked. Like, you can barely even score them then. That's one of the craziest things that I noticed, right? They said trivela shots can only be performed with this playstyle or playstyle plus, but like, they're still not even that good. I need to try some more to try it out again, to like try to score one, but like, they're not even worth attempting in FC26, to be completely honest. And I think that's fine and that's good. I like that this is behind a bit of a playstyle plus here, but I do believe that it still should be possible to score trivelas. But yeah, it definitely should not be the same as it was in 25, which is good. Now, the one thing I want to mention, you guys maybe saw me post a clip of this on TikTok, or maybe on Instagram, or even here on YouTube Shorts, about something that I learned from sitting behind a EA developer's desk, and that was about the stats that are involved in finesse shots. Guys, in a finesse shot, we always have wondered, is the curve attribute a part of the equation that actually is a part of the game in the background, in the code, deciding whether or not the shot goes in? Curve stat is not. All it is in a finesse shot is the reaction stat, and either long shots or finishing. So it takes 10% of the reactions attribute on that card, and then it adds that to 90% of the finishing attribute. If you're inside the box of that card, it adds those two calculations together to get you a final attribute. If that player has a playstyle or a playstyle plus, it'll then boost that attribute up a little bit more. But it's so interesting to know that curve is not involved. It is literally the reaction stat and it is the finishing or the long shots. Long shots takes place even if you're a yard outside the box. It'll use the long shot stat instead of finishing. Now, I want to also mention this. The reactions in-game stat is in the calculation for shooting every single type of shot in FC26 except for a power shot. That is true. I watched it. We tried every single shot from an EA developer's desk, clicked finesse, clicked a regular shot, clicked a trivela, did a low driven, did multiple types of low drivens. Reactions is involved in everything. So unless this changes, that is one thing to kind of remember in your mind this year. And that's one thing that not a lot of people have noticed or maybe even have known or even talked about before, is that that is a part of the finishing stat. And that was just from me seeing and noticing something and saying to an EA guy like, hey, show me that again and click on those percentages. So the reaction stat matters a lot when it comes to finishing. Just remember that for FC26. Topic number 5 is the new physicality, especially with the new Playstyle Plus that is Enforcer that you're about to see right here with Erling Haaland boxing out at a defender to receive the ball and then pass it off for an easy tap in goal. The Enforcer playstyle and the new physicality mechanics are kind of overpowered. The closest thing that I feel like I can kind of even compare it to is the speed boost in FC25. And since we're on the topic of the speed boost, a lot of people have been wondering, is the speed boost still in the game? No. I can't even begin to tell you how cooked the speed boost is. Just about as cooked as Trivelas are. The speed boost is just as much cooked. You can still press L1 and still get some pretty good close control dribbling, but you can't sprint out of that and get a teleportation sprint boost with rapid or quick step plus that allows you to sprint ahead of a defender. No, it's just the exact same if you were to just stand still and press R2 or RT and sprint with a quick step or a rapid playstyle plus like normal. It's the exact same. There is no sprint boost. That is a W in my opinion, but this might be as OP as a sprint boost, guys. I don't like this because of that, but I do like this because of the opportunities and possibilities that it brings to the attack, especially for physical type players. It might be like the beginning of FC24. Remember when Erling Haaland was super OP because of the new lengthy, controlled, and explosive types that they dropped in the game, which by the way, this year, they took away all the different controlled, lengthy, controlled, explosive. It's now just back to the simple 3. It is explosive, it is controlled, and it is lengthy. That's one thing I wanted to mention here as well. But now to the main topic of physicality. Guys, check this out, right? In FC25, if you would have pressed L2 with a striker to try to box out a defender and receive the ball, defender runs right past you and takes the ball, right? You see it here once again. Defender just goes right through the attacker and takes the ball. Now in FC26, it's a little unclear whether this player has the Enforcer playstyle or not, but even without the playstyle, this L2 mechanic is still pretty good. The new physicality engine in the play, you can still, even with a smaller striker, get a little bit of a nudge on a bigger defender, enough to receive the ball. That's why I think it's a little bit overpowered. But as you can see here, this is going to be a great way to receive the ball and then to continue the attack, whether through a pass or maybe through a turn and a shot. Now, the one thing that I will mention is one of the, I think actually animations that they showed with the new shield trap was like potentially boxing out somebody in the corner. Like imagine you're trying to waste time at the end of a game and you're going to use that Enforcer in the corner to try to burn time and to try to draw a foul. There is a cooldown. You can't just spam and hold L2 for a super long amount of time to then hold on to the ball forever. Again, there is a bit of a cooldown to this, so you cannot spam it, which I think is very, very important. And it is going to depend entirely on the physical stats of the player and the build of the player and the playstyle, whether they have Enforcer or whether they do not. But it is pretty OP. I can remember one specific time in game where I was using Harry Kane. Harry Kane in the build that we were using had the Enforcer. This one right there, sorry. This is the Enforcer playstyle, kind of like the crest with the ball, like on a circle right there. That's the one. And Harry Kane had that playstyle plus. And This is where I think this Playstyle Plus could end up being super overpowered. Not just for hold-up play, but I was dribbling in the box. If you can kind of imagine like where Haaland is getting the ball right here, Harry Kane had the ball and he was dribbling. A defender was directly on his right side between him and the goal, and Harry Kane with the Enforcer Plus shoved him out of the way to then have enough space to take one step and then easily finish into the back of the net. Now, if it's somebody with a Playstyle Plus, maybe I'm not super, unhappy about that. But if that's something that ends up being something that all players can do, even if they're not very physically talented, physical stats aren't that high in the game, that could end up being a bit of a problem. So overall, gameplay we get on launch is big, if not the biggest decider of whether or not we're going to have a good year of FC26. And there's undoubtedly something that will need patched and updated within a few weeks. Even like I mentioned with the Enforcer and physicality play, EA is very ready and aware, and they said they are willing to continue listening to our feedback. So we have to hold them accountable to that. Actually, here's some feedback about that even, EA. An open beta for 2 weekends. I know we run a closed beta every single year, but if you had an open beta, this would be a great way to get the game in the hands of the community, and they would be able to feel out some of the bugs, some of the issues with it, and you'd be able to tune it a little bit before it is released. I still am a fan, especially after I heard Nepenthes talk about it in one of his recent videos. I think he had some great points. An open beta would be really, really good to help make the game as finely tuned as possible as we head into the full release of 26, and that could make it a lot more enjoyable for us. Imagine having that first update happen on launch instead of after we've played the game for 2 weeks, maybe gotten frustrated with something that's overpowered and frustrating, then get the update. I think it'd be great if we had an open beta. I don't know if that's in the plans or not. Probably a closed beta like every single year, but we'll just have to see. Seriously, guys, though, FC26, every single game of it felt fun, felt consistent, and so far, for what it's worth, it seems like we're on track for having something pretty special, especially with, once again, the way that EA is approaching this year. They said, hold us accountable, keep giving us feedback. We want to make this game for you. The club is yours. That's the tagline for this year, right? We'll see. All right, let's keep giving our feedback. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Once again, I have to say thanks to the EA Creator Network for allowing me to make this video, for taking me out to Vancouver, and for enabling me to do this. But I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this game in whatever form possible and get playing FC26. So again, leave your comments, concerns, questions down below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do get subscribed, and of course like the video if you enjoyed it, and check out a couple other videos. I'm going to link a video from Ryan Pessoa, a pro player who I was in EA Vancouver with. He had some really great questions that he asked one of the gameplay producers and got some more deep dive info on some of these topics. So make sure you go check out that video. It is down below in the description, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Have a good one. It's been TheFutAccountant, and I'll see you later. Peace out.